Welcome back to another episode of Decentralized Chain. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking to Richard Parris, co-founder of SAITO Network. But before we do, if this is the type of content that you like and you want to learn more about crypto, start now by hitting the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. Better still, why don't you come and join us over in the Telegram community? Plenty of crypto enthusiasts, from novices to pro traders. There's certainly no question is too big and definitely no question is too small to help you on that journey. Now, before we jump into the interview with Richard, I just want to take a second and just look at SAITO in terms of price action. It's something that I don't really cover too much when it comes to SAITO on this channel. But one thing that I do have to say and that I have noticed is that certainly we have been on a steady incline in terms of price appreciation. And to me, that doesn't mean that people are just jumping on the SAITO bandwagon and pumping up the price. To me, it really emphasizes that SAITO is getting noticed for what it is, right? And it's important because we need to bear in mind that this month is also very important. It's important because we're going to have the Parachian slot auctions opening up on POLKADOT. And once we start getting more and more projects vying for those slots, one thing that they're going to have to think about is infrastructure, is the core infrastructure. Ethereum has Infura, and for many reasons, it has problems in terms of centralized, in terms of openness. There are monopolies within that space. But here, SAITO is really providing that infrastructure for the Web3, right? And more importantly, as more projects on board, as more projects buy for those slot auctions, one thing is going to be very apparent, which is the core infrastructure. And this is exactly what SAITO is going to provide. And I suspect, and I'm pretty certain, that once we get some of this sort of major projects looking and talking about that, this is where people, and it's going to click, the ball's going to drop, and everyone's going to think, they have it. This is what is being built here in order to provide that within the Polkadot ecosystem. Now, enough of me talking about price action, enough of me talking about Polkadot. Let's jump in and see exactly what Richard has to say. Richard, welcome back to the show. Great to have you here. Well, it is that time where we catch up with all things SAITO. How have you been, man?
Really good. Busy as usual. Every day is pretty busy at SAITO, but it's always engaging and exciting, and great to be catching up. It's always good to I think I say this every time. It's always good to think over the last sort of few weeks and a month and a bit and remember what we've been up to.
It's always good to reflect. So, in talking about reflection, let's kick off, because there's been a lot of stuff happening actually over the past month. And I think first and foremost, your submission for the Web3 grant, right? Final milestone submission.
Yeah, it's been a little bit drawn out, but this is the final milestone. And this one, actually, people can see it on the site right now, in that we have a kind of test game, which is not really a game. It's just all the functions and features that developers have kind of for free when you build on the SAITO ecosystem. And that includes down the bottom the ability to exchange Polkadot ecosystem tokens. This has been a big thing for us, I think, almost the last year, as we have been engaging more and more with the Web3 kind of foundation and community. And I think we've always been Web3-oriented project. If you know what SAITO is trying to achieve, it's got those goals in mind. So having this, having the grant in the first place was a really great acknowledgement for us, but also really more just an invitation into that community and a way to start engaging with people, to say, look, we're here too. We have this important piece of the puzzle, and these are some ways we can interact. And having this kind of wrapped up, we feel is really great, because it puts things out there for people to come and start engaging and actually wanting to sort of use and build games around what we're doing. So really happy to have that in the can.
And one thing I want to stop you there, Richard, because SAITO started some time back, and those who have kind of been in this space, who kind of understand what Web3 is trying to achieve and what the foundation is there to kind of support other projects with. And recently we've obviously seen SAITO being mentioned by a number of influencers, quite a few key influencers, and that does, to a certain extent, drive a fresh set of users, a fresh set of individuals who are not quite familiar with the program to the project. But I think for the benefit of those users, what is the importance behind Web3? Why is it such a big deal?
It's a big deal for us because we're really a missing piece in the ecosystem overall. And so we click into what they're trying to do very well. And they're also, a really large organization with a huge amount of backing, full of people, like-minded people who are trying to build things that need what SAITO can do for them. So no one else in the space, no one else at all can help applications and things stay genuinely peer-to-peer without introducing some kind of either volunteerism that nodes and infrastructure are provided on a volunteer basis, or having to introduce Web 2 business models slowly but surely via things like the way Infura supports Ethereum. And there's a really strong knowledge, I think, in the Polkadot ecosystem, especially as we start seeing Kusama and then Parachain slot auctions coming home, and the projects that were focused on garnering those are now looking to their infrastructure needs and thinking, okay, now we need to build. And there isn't that big Infura infrastructure there being donated by Joe Lubin to help them out. And so that's why this is big for us, because it's a really big audience for what we're doing. People we can collaborate with very intricately and really help them out. And so that's been a really big thing for us. Sort of, like you said, we started a couple of years ago, and this to us is kind of the part of the next phase of SAITO of becoming, a really important piece of the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think even when you sort of touched on Kusama, Polkadot Parachain auctions coming, I mean that's around the corner as well. It's a good few weeks away. So I think certainly from that perspective, as projects start sort of launching on Polkadot, they're also going to be starting looking at what are our infrastructure needs, and SAITO kind of fits the bill perfectly for that reason alone.
That's right. And so the grant application, what you can see on the site now is evidence to people, so it's very simple. It's just buttons that do the things, that make the things happen in a game. But when you look under the hood, you can see very clearly, this is how we can integrate the two systems, and this is how SAITO can support that model that doesn't involve hiring servers and doing those sorts of things. Exactly. So we're really excited about it.
No. It is something to be excited about. And I think, this will eventually resonate with those who are also coming into the space to understand that. Now, let's talk about SAITO, building in SAITO. Clearly, a lot of milestones have been achieved, and it does require people. So from a team perspective, how are we looking? We hiring, or we've stopped hiring?
Yeah, that's the nice thing. I'm glad you asked. We have two great developers starting up next week, and that's super exciting for us. Like, to have two people in a week coming in on really core, serious roles, I think is going to give us a real punch in terms of what we can be achieving. So with everything else that's going on, it's difficult. We're hiring for even more positions in product, and we're looking for more front end devs as well. We could also do with some help around marketing, but it's just really positive to have two hires landing and to be scrambling to be able to onboard them next week. As a result of some really hard work, particularly from the technical staff, on like making sure we're getting good people from a really actually quite impressive pool of candidates. So
the other thing which I just want to touch on before is obviously new users, people finding out about SAITO, and wanting to have a piece of SAITO, right? Because everybody wants to share in the success, and we still have this whole entire issue with gas in Ethereum. So even if you want to buy some, it is costly at the same time. I mean, you need to buy a lot of it to make it worth your while, regardless of whichever way you're looking at it. Whether you're looking to make a quick buck or whether you're looking for it in the long run, right? Nobody wants to pay more than they need to for owning a bit of SAITO. And so here you've also got the AnySwap bridge, right? So we're kind of moving on to the BSC ecosystem as well to try and make it a bit cheaper to be able to participate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at our strategy, we are working with Gate.io as a CX, and we have other, I think of them as traditional legacy exchange options, and then we supported Uniswap, which has the issues that you've been talking about. It's fine if you moving large amounts, but we've been very careful and judicious about going and handing over huge amounts of tokens to large exchanges to get listed. And, it's sort of sometimes not taken the right way when you're pushing against the kind of when Binance narrative that's very easy. But really, if you look at what we've been doing and the series of partnerships we've made and what we've said yes to and pursued, it's all been around basically wanting to make sure that the community and people who are interested in coming on the project have a way of stacking Nolans, in the stacking sats tradition of being able to acquire at a reasonable rate.
Yeah.
As well as just overall long-term being able to obtain, SAITO for use on the network very simply. So those are two good reasons to do that. And then the other thing that we're kind of looking to do with the partnership with AnySwap is then have obviously a bridge to a BEP20 Binance Smart Chain-based token. And what we're looking into now is the best way to support via the project a swap function and a farm function there. And our idea, what we're hoping to achieve, is also give people a way who are holding long term and who are interested in supporting the project that way to get some yield. Yeah. We're not interested in kind of gaming that and dumping tokens into some kind of reward pool that then means that basically we're inflating everybody and undermining the people who aren't playing that game in some club, kind of fashion. We're not interested in that kind of thing. But what we are happy to do is say if there's trading fees to be gained, that the project can, we're looking for a way we can underpin and make safe that process for people participating, but then giving the space for smaller players and long-term holders, big and small, to go and put some liquidity on the line, get some rewards for that, and sort of make sure that's something that's there for the community, because we are aware that they're doing fantastic people that stick by us through thick and thin, but this is something we might be able to achieve to give them more a direct thank you.
It's always been a bit of a fine balancing act, really, in terms of how far do you go with rewards, how far, because a lot of people do flock when staking, when this, when that, and like you said, it's a bit of both, right? You hit a major exchange, you could potentially see, a rocket in terms of price, or it could quite easily go the other way, and it does, affect the project, I would say, almost negatively, because people are more fixated on the price action versus actually, what the project is here to do and deliver overall.
Right. Well, and I think also there's a lot of confirmation bias. So people people remember the time something listed on a big exchange and went through the roof, and they're not realizing that doesn't happen in the majority of cases. Yeah. And that alongside that, you've just handed a lot of liquidity to a single player who's not in it for supporting the project or long term. So they have to, they'll have internal rules about having to dump that. And, that isn't benefiting the community in any way. So it's something we're not, against, but if we list on big exchanges, it's always going to be with an eye to not creating new whales and to doing it in a way that's going to reward people who've been with us all along and who are participating, rather than, simply something that's benefiting the exchange.
Exactly. And, talking about community, I mean, you do have what I have to say is quite an amazing community within the SAITO Telegrams, actually. Even in the official, even in the traders group, there is, there's a great buzz and a camaraderie between everybody that I've noticed in general. So, let's talk a bit about the community. What have we got coming up for the community?
Well, I mean, first of all, I just wanted to send a shout out to the community. I think, you're right. I don't tend to go into traders. I feel like that's not kind of my place, and it's not an official channel. So I think I want to let the kids play. Is that
You can say that. You can say that.
Yeah. Whereas we keep the official channel is a news source and moderated, and we look to giving people a really good experience there. But just seeing memes and stuff go out, as well as I was having a conversation with some people in Telegram last night, and went to another browser after that, and in my Twitter feed there was someone had curated a few things I'd said and put it into a post, and it was just a really rewarding feeling to be like, okay, so these people are listening and attending and wanting to support the project in these really helpful and useful ways. Sometimes like that, and sometimes just raw silliness and fun, great memes and things like that, and that's been really growing, and so it's just super rewarding for us to be on the end of that, and to see that kind of core community developing a character and, a kind of, like you say, camaraderie. There's a kind of feeling around the project. And as a founder, that's a pretty powerful, experience, because you often staring at the same screen that you've been staring at for 100 hours this week, doing something like, reconciling books or something that's not even your core project. And so it's lovely to be able to hop in Telegram and have a substantive conversation about what we're trying to achieve with people who really care. So just shout out to that. Mostly it's been taking off, and it's been really appreciated, I think, across the project.
No, community, one thing I think within this whole decentralized space, which differs from any other space that there is community. It's almost the foundation and core to any project wanting to bring innovation to this space. And, talking about innovation. So look, we've got the Web3 final grant pretty much out the way. So now we're still continuing onwards and upwards. And clearly it puts SAITO, I would say, in a very good place. So what can the community expect in terms of roadmap coming forward?
Well, I think, that's the thing we've been, I've mentioned one of the previous videos, we've kind of been refining our marketing approach, etc. And we've been looking at how to present ourselves to kind of new people, because that's more and more a part of what we're doing, etc. And I think it's time, with some advances technically, etc., and the completion of this Web3 integration work and what we've learned from that, to kind of get back out to the community and give them a little bit of a reboot on that, some updated information. And we've got some really cool, I think, things coming out of the work we've been doing that might not be clear to people, that we want to make sure we're communicating really quickly. So I'm just going to tease here a bit, and put ourselves on the line to get something out as soon as possible. But particularly in the kind of third-party crypto integration space, I think there's a big part of what we're trying to achieve that isn't necessarily visible to people yet. So get that clear, as well as with all the sort of the continued community growth and stuff. Make sure people are clear on our roadmap overall in terms of things like token distribution and role of a foundation in what we're doing, and how we plan to manage and develop the ecosystem, and what role we see the core project playing in that. And I think that's all stuff that it's easy to forget is being refined and improved in our heads all the time. And so it's probably time it's around 6 months since the IDO. I think it's a good cadence to say, let's take what we've learned and put that into a new clear statement about what's coming up, and give people also a bit more of the longer vision, so they can sort of have some insight into that.
Well, then in that case, for the community, stay tuned. Interesting things are happening. So there we go. Well, look,
I do feel nervous putting myself on the line to get a document out by it.
No, it's greatly appreciated, Richard. Well, look, Richard, thank you so much for your time, as always. And it's always good to just take a bit of time out of your busy schedule just to really keep us simple folk updated on the goings of SAITO. And let's catch up. Let's catch up as we always do in the next 4 to 6 weeks, and see where we are from there.
Definitely. Thanks for taking the time. I always enjoy these discussions a lot.
As always, Richard. Speak to you soon.